Hi, everybody. My name is Richard Roberts. I'm the resident dramaturg at the Indiana Repertory Theater. Welcome to our pre-show chat for The Reclamation of Madison Hemings by Charles Smith. And we are joined by the playwright, Charles Smith, and the director, Ron OJ Parson. Welcome, gentlemen.
Glad to be here.
Yes, absolutely.
Our audience will be familiar with Charles from his previous plays that the IRT commissioned and that we premiered, Les Trois Dumas and Sister Carrie and The Gospel According to James. This play, The Reclamation of Madison Hemings, we did not commission. The Goodman Theater in Chicago commissioned it, but we have the very exciting privilege of producing the first production of that play. And it is going to be directed by Ron OJ Parson, who is a director we have long wanted to work here at the IRT. So we're very glad to have both of you gentlemen working together. And this is the first time you two have ever worked together, right?
Indeed, yes it is.
Yes. Yes, I've wanted to work with Ron for a long time, and now I've got
it's been a long time coming, but
yes.
you know.
I'm glad that we could make it happen. Let's start off. Charles, tell us, who is Madison Hemings and why is he important?
Well, Madison Hemings was the son of Thomas Jefferson and Sally Hemings. Sally Hemings was an enslaved person, enslaved woman, enslaved at Monticello. So according to the law in America at the time, she was quote unquote owned by Thomas Jefferson, who wrote the Declaration of Independence and was a US president. They had a very long, what people call relationship. He was 45 years old. She was 14 when this began. I'm trying to figure out what language you would use. I know what language I would use today to say a 45-year-old man is laying with a 14-year-old girl. Not a woman, a 14-year-old girl. But anyway. And it continued until Thomas Jefferson's death, when Sally Hemings was maybe 35 years old. She gave him 4 children, 3 sons and 1 daughter. And Madison Hemings is the second oldest son of this liaison.
And so this play takes place later in Madison's life, much later, in 1866.
Yes.
And tell us about just a little snippet of what happened, what the play's about.
Yeah, the play takes place in 1866, 1 year after the end of the Civil War. Madison Hemings is now in his 60s. He has returned to Monticello with another person who was enslaved at Monticello, Israel Jefferson, whose original name was Israel Gillette. Israel Jefferson took the name Jefferson because he served Thomas Jefferson. These 2 men settled in Ohio, and the play opens when they have returned to Monticello in search for Israel Jefferson's long-lost brother.
So there's a lot of history going on in this play. What some people might consider controversial history. This was a story that was long known, but many people didn't believe it until they were able to do some DNA testing in the 90s and proved that, in fact, the Hemings family did indeed have Thomas Jefferson's DNA and that the story was all true.
Yes, it was discounted. You know, people wrote about it when right before Thomas Jefferson became president. People wrote about his children, his enslaved children that looked just like him, who were serving during parties. And, you know, it was just discounted as a tax and stuff. And then Jefferson became president. And these rumors persisted. And, you know, years later, Madison spoke about it in his memoirs. Other people who worked at the plantation or at the forced labor camp, they wrote about it, and it was confirmed over and over and over and over again. Many of the Jefferson descendants discounted all of these rumors. They called them just that, rumors, and said that, well, you know, if you were a slave, then of course you would try to raise your profile by claiming that this was your father. And finally, DNA testing proved that beyond a doubt. And, you know, the work of some very, very smart people like Annette Gordon-Reed, who really laid out the case, took all of the evidence, took all of the counter, all of the pushback, and examined it from a cold legal point of view. And, you know, the evidence is absolutely overwhelming. And then the DNA test just put a topping on that. But like all not all American truth, some American truth, there's still pushback. There are people who, in the face of this overwhelming evidence, still say, no, it didn't happen. Which is, unfortunately, in America, has become a pretty familiar theme.
It is indeed. It is indeed. So tell us, how did this play come to be? Who had the idea to write a play about Madison Hemings and Israel Jefferson?
Well,
I think Ron could probably speak on this better.
Well, yeah, let me just say that I had these friends of mine, Stephen McKinley Henderson, who was also a great friend of Charles's, and John Cothran, who
is a great friend.
Is great. We're all friends. We're all friends. And I had an idea actually of, Steve, and we were talking one day, and he said, I worked with Bob Falls back before he was at Goodman. He was at Wisdom Bridge Theater with a guy named John Cothran, this and that, blah, blah. And I said, hey, maybe I should go to talk to Bob and see if we can come up with an idea to get you guys back together, reunite, to be honest, Charles, I wasn't even thinking that I would be the director. I was like, the idea is great. Bob Falls is still at the Goodman. Let's see what happens. So when we got over there and I was talking to him about it, he said, well, yeah, Ron, that's a great idea. I love Steve and John. Maybe you should just direct something and we can get Charles Smith to write it. And I said, yeah, let's do it. We didn't know what it was going to be at that time. So that's how the idea happened. And I think Charles can probably expound on how this particular play, because we didn't really know what it was yet. Charles, didn't we call it didn't you call it Sons of Sally?
Yeah, my first draft was Sons of Sally, because I knew it was, my first experience in the theater, just mind-blowing experience, was with Steve McKinley Henderson and John Cothran. I was a graduate school and I couldn't get Black actors because I was at the University of Iowa, and I was, trying to do these plays, and I'm trying to recruit football players to be in my plays. And I was going to a workshop of mine, and I saw this production of Island, and these two actors were in it, and, mature Black actors. And I turned to the person I was with and I said, one day I'll be good enough to have people like this in my play. Mm-hmm. Next morning, I show up to see my cast and I see Stephen McKinley Henderson walking down the hall. And I just think, oh my God, is it possible? He sees me and he comes up to me and he says, are you Charles Smith? I said, yes. He said, brother, I can't tell you what an honor it is for me to be in your work. And my mind exploded. And, I actually wrote Les Trois Dumas for Steve. And he couldn't do it because he was doing August Wilson on Broadway. So, I've been wanting to work with Steve for a very long time. So when Ron called me and Ron says, hey man, I got Steve, I got John, Bob is interested and are you interested? It's like, are you crazy? I've been, this was like, I've been training my entire life to write this play.
So that's how it happened, Richard. It was an idea, and that's how things happen. You have an idea and then it comes to fruition. And to be, with these talented people in mind, that's how it got started. So, here we are.
And one of the silver linings of COVID, because of COVID, the Goodman was not able to produce the play, and we were looking for a play just like this, and fortunately the Goodman who made the commission gave us permission to do the premiere, and we're so excited to be doing it. We're not doing it with those two actors. We're doing it with two very different but very wonderful actors. The IRT is familiar with both of them. David Allen Anderson, who's been in dozens of plays at the IRT, is playing Israel. And Brian Anthony Wilson, who was in our production of
Les Trois Dumas.
No, he wasn't. He was in Les Trois Dumas somewhere else, right?
Oh, okay.
Right,
okay.
in Philly.
Gotcha,
That's right.
Gotcha, yeah.
Oh, now I can't think of the name of that play. It's the one.
Intimate
the woman,
Apparel?
Yes,
Intimate
Intimate
Apparel.
Apparel. That's it.
Right.
Intimate Apparel. Dave, Brian was in that many years ago. So we're very excited to have the two of them together. And with this team, it's going to be a really terrific production. Ron, I wanted to ask you, you've directed obviously dozens of plays, and there's a certain set of responsibilities for a director of any play. But when you direct a world premiere and you're working with the playwright, what are the extra additional things that you
Well,
do?
for me personally, I love having the playwright there at a world premiere because, like I told Charles, and I just directed a world premiere in Chicago, and I told that playwright too. The first production of your play should be the one that you are trying to come close to envisioning. Because once these plays are very popular and successful and they go out into the world, they're going to change. People are going to do what they want with them and that kind of thing. And playwrights kind of lose that control. But this one, it's all about the playwright for me. I think we need to be able to have his input or her input or their input and be able to bring to life some of those things that they originally saw in their vision. Now, sometimes playwrights don't know what that is. They don't know what that first play is going to be. So in that way, it also helps them develop a more concrete vision of what they have written. So I've worked with a few playwrights that some sit kind of back and watch and see where it goes. Some are more hands-on. And I think Charles is both of those. He's like, let me see what they do. And then, but no, I think this could be da-da-da-da. And so I love that. I just love, I'm open to, my mind is open to what comes out. A lot of times actors are trying to define what that is at an early place. And we both have said, well, you tell me, you tell me what you think the character's feeling here. And then, and we'll take it from there, those kind of things. So for me, it's an honor, in particular playwrights who are renowned like as Charles is, or we've both been doing this a long time, So I think that finally for this to happen at this time when we're mature young men,
Yes.
we still got a lot to say and a lot to do and bring forth. So great being here at IRT to do it.
Charles, am I correct in thinking that you've been in the rehearsal room for the entire rehearsal process for this play?
Yes, I am.
And what does that bring to you as a writer? What does that give you?
Well, I think first and foremost, as a writer, I'm usually at home in a room. I would say it's a little dark, hovel in the corner, but that's not quite true. But it's a solitary process. And then when the actors get it, when the designers get it, when the director gets it, and they start doing what it is I've written, what I get to see is how they are interpreting what I've written. And, I look at what I wanted and I look at what they're doing. B.B. King would say the difference between the two is the blues. This is what I wanted. This is what I got. The difference is the blues. So, it helps me understand how they are interpreting what it is I've written. And then, of course, it allows me to start adjusting what I've written to get closer to what it is I intended. A lot of people think that playwriting is a lot like novel writing, story writing, fiction, when in fact it's closer to writing music, because when you write music, when the composers I've seen, they have something in their mind and they say, and it kind of goes like this. And they might put something down on paper, but it's not until you get into the studio and get that instrument and start playing and you hear it and you go, oh, right, I hear, it needs to go a little bit sharper here and it needs to do this there. And I need to adjust it once you get the instrument. Well, plays develop in the same way, only the instruments are the actors. The instruments are the designers. Those are the instruments. So once I get in that rehearsal and I see how they are interpreting, then I say, oh, I now know how I have to adjust the script to get closer to what it is I intended.
And I know you've been doing that because I read the rehearsal reports every day and I see the script change notes.
Yeah.
So you're feeling good about what you're learning.
Yes. It's been, it's been extraordinary. I've learned a great deal. I've learned a huge amount.
And we're just scratching the surface. That's the thing
Right.
about a world premiere too. You wish you had more time, to be honest. I would imagine, at least for me. And I would say too that a lot of times directors and playwrights, they each let their ego get in the way, and I don't think that's the case here. We both are like open to what this can be without trying to manipulate things and this and that. We're kind of letting it happen and letting us, each of us, because I would say, sometimes I may disagree, and he may say, no, this is what I was thinking, but then, well, let me see this. Let me see what that is. Let me see what you bring, especially with these two actors, that because they have very strong opinions too about, well, I think I'm trying to do this here, and that kind of thing. So all of that's really good in a new play, and
Right.
new plays are definitely different to do than plays that have been done a lot, So that's the intriguing thing about this as well. I just wanted to go back on what Charles was saying too about how people didn't believe this story and this kind of thing. Reading what I've found is reading some of his research and other research. Man, you can't believe how people could say this didn't happen.
It's amazing the lengths people will go to not believe the truth.
Right, and the fact that Sally was his wife's half sister. That's another thing coming from the father, the grandfather. It's just amazing some of the things we're seeing. And I thought it was 6 kids, Charles. I thought two had didn't live full lives. Is that speculation, or is that just
Yeah, that I would say a speculation. The additional 2 children. One is Thomas Woodson. There was a Tom on Monticello who, at 1 year old, was sent to the Woodson plantation when he was 1, a year after Thomas Jefferson and Sally Hemings came back from France. And so there was speculation that while in France, she had that child, and they brought him back, and this would have been the oldest. So they sent him away in order to get rid of this evidence of this.
Right.
But we've been able to trace the Thomas Woodson line. In fact, I have a good friend who is descendant of that line. She's been able to trace her lineage back to that Thomas Woodson. And the DNA on that line direct to Thomas Jefferson isn't holding up.
Okay.
And then there was also a rumor about another child who didn't survive.
Right. Okay. But even there's so many. But even though you say, we look at the 45 and 14-year-old different back then, it's still a man and a child. So it's hard to give that credence, but it's unfortunate.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Richard. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. What should audiences look forward to or watch out for when they're coming to see the play?
That's an interesting question, Charles.
Yeah, first of all, when I've done a lot of my work is based on sort of historical figures, historical events. And somebody says, well, history, this is a history play. Quite frankly, I don't know what that means, a history play. I wrote a play, early in my career. I spent one evening on the front porch of my mother's house with my brother, and there was a local guy who came by. Some people would call him a drug dealer. I mean, he was a local guy. He sold drugs, yes, but was he a drug dealer? And some things happened that night. About a year later, I wrote a play about it. is that a history play? I don't know, I mean, and with the definition of history play. But let me go. The only reason to go to the theater to watch a play like this one that was set in, was set 160 years ago is because it is commenting on who we are today, who we are in this very moment. I was talking earlier about people pushing back against the truth. Well, we go to January 6th and exactly what happened there. There's sort of all of these different ideas about, the truth of that moment, exactly what that moment means for our country. One of the things that the play tries to address is this question about the nature of who we are today versus who we were at the end of the Civil War. One of the characters in the play says, listen, you think that the Civil War is over, it's been over a year now, you think that this country has changed, and the country is not going to change. The country has been born. Thomas Jefferson was the midwife, and you can't change the nature of a thing after it's been born. You can maybe clean it up a little bit, but so the play asks those sorts of questions. Who are we today? Who are we? It looks at questions of wealth that's passed down from family to family. Madison Hemings shows up. He says, "Hey, this was my father. According to the contract of this country, the contract of America, the Declaration of Independence that begins with all men are created equal, that was written by my father. According to that contract, Monticello should belong to me and my children, and the children of my children, and the children of my children's children, if this contract is true." So these are the things that I'm hoping that an audience gets to wrestle with or explore as the play is exploring it, and decide how it affects them today, as they walk in the theater, as they walk out of the theater, as they wake up tomorrow morning after seeing the play. And you see, these areas that are almost in every city of blighted poverty. How did this happen? Well, we want to blame the people who are living in the blighted poverty. All you got to, Kim Kardashian said, all you got to do is get up and work. The woman who has all of this inherited wealth. See? So the play asks these questions and perhaps shines a little light on, some of the things the country is responsible for.
Well, I can tell you folks out in the audience, it's a very exciting play. It's a very funny play. It's a very moving play. And I can't wait for you all to come and see it. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us today. And everyone, please come and see The Reclamation of Madison Hemings by Charles Smith, directed by Ron OJ Parson. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.